thanks so much for joining us today, and congratulations on setting a new ladies midwinter Bob Graham round. Congratulations. How are you feeling now?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a week on, so actually a week today. I just literally just now finished. um, yeah, I felt like really sore, really sore for like 48 hours, and then since then I've physically been fine, but just kind of really tired and hungry all the time.
You
But just
achieved it. You did an amazing job. You must have been on quite a high afterwards.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was. It's. I think it still hasn't sunk in completely, um, but yeah, it's a good feeling.
How long had you been planning to take on the midwinter Bob Graham round?
I think I was trying to think of things to do over the summer that I want to do in the winter. It was either the option of doing that or I had my eye on a road marathon again because I still want to break 2:30 for the marathon. But I guess wanting to work on my weaknesses really and things that would help me be a better mountain runner, I thought doing the Bob Graham would be a great way to do that because I'm not very good on technical or steep terrain with my background. So it gave me yeah, good motivation to get out there in the winter and practice as much as possible.
Well, certainly, it doesn't look like any weakness. Just gone from strength to strength, really. The main reasons why you're drawn to the Bob Graham round, would you say?
Just I always love the Lake Districts. It's where I've been doing a lot of my training for the last few years. Yeah, it's just a place that I feel really calm and it relaxes me, and it's just my sort of favorite escape. So I think gradually, just over time, I started wrecking some of the route and getting intrigued by it, and yeah, that's why I decided to do it, I guess.
It is a beautiful area. It's absolutely stunning. Was there a particular strategy that you put into place in terms of pacing to for the Bob Graham round?
Yeah, so I wasn't sure kind of how quick it I would be doing it in the winter because so many variables. I did a bit of recce a few weeks before with a friend and on my own, and was roughly comfortably running at around 18-hour pace. So I spoke to Martin Stone, who sort of was a guy who did the first winter solo round, and he's helped with lots of other sort of high profile Bob Graham rounds. And we sort of decided to set a 19-hour schedule, and just as a guide for mainly to help the pacers know roughly what sort of pace to go at. And then I wanted to get about 2 to 3 paces per leg. And mostly I wanted them to be kind of the local community who know the course really well. I really like the tradition of the Bob Graham and how much it brings kind of the local community into it. And so I'd say about 50% of them I already knew from racing or traveling to events with. And the other half kind of volunteered via Instagram or Facebook when I sort of put a plea out for some help. And yeah, I was overwhelmed with the response. I was surprised kind of people would want to come out at 2, 3 in the morning to start a leg in the weather. Although at the time we didn't know what the weather would be like, but if you live in the lakes, you kind of know it's not
Yeah,
going to be.
it's unpredictable, isn't it?
Yeah, very. Yeah, when
Um,
I did it was beautiful winter, like no wind, really soft snow, and completely dry. And then when it actually came around to midwinter, it just rained the whole time, high winds, and there was just no really good weather windows. So I just picked the best of a bad bunch of weather windows.
yeah, it's not something that you can shy away from, is it? You've got to be like, right, yeah, let's just get it done, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, in terms of the fell running community, there, it is a fantastic community. It's something else, isn't it? Where you can kind of go, yeah, I'm doing this, and they all kind of come knocking. It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, I was kind of overwhelmed with the support really, and I knew it was, I knew it was kind of a team thing, and but I think it only really sunk in on the day and hit me how much it was, and yeah, I really felt the support of everybody. And like Paul Wilson, who's the chairman of the Bob Graham, came and did a lot of my road support, but all of it with my wife. And I'd never met him before. Before he to me, I didn't ask him directly. He sort of said, "Oh, I'm happy to block out 24 hours," and he went to all the stops and helped with all the paces and get them shipped from A to B and B to A. And yeah, he was absolutely brilliant. And then yeah, all the paces were just incredible. And they knew exactly what to do, and not in just terms of where the navigation, but just how you kind of want to be managed when that sort of distance, and sort of quiet encouragement on certain sections, or to eat and drink and things like that.
Yeah, they're very, very experienced at the Pub Graham. They're very experienced about knowing they've either supported or done one themselves, and very experienced in terms of that, aren't they?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Talk me through your round. So leg one, any kind of difficulties that you kind of found early doors, anything that you had to adapt to, or was it kind of plain sailing? What was the conditions like underfoot and also up on the mountains?
Yeah, so I guess going into it, I had quite a lot of doubt anyway, because I'd been out running the day before and I had to stop a mile before I went home because my calf felt like it sprained, or it was super tight, and it had been like that on and off all week. So having never run 64 miles, I thought it was probably going to be a big ask to get around with an injury. So even the day before, I was panic buying kind of like calf sleeves, KT tape, Voltarol, and just kind of trying to get my calf in okay shape. But I could still feel it just before I set off. So I kind of had horrible visions of getting to the bottom of Skiddaw and it just going, and I'd have to walk back, 5 minutes after leaving. So yeah, I was very tentative going on into the first leg. I didn't actually, I couldn't even envision myself finishing, but I didn't want to back out. Sort of thing. I can't describe it. I thought, like I want to know. I don't want to regret not trying. So I went out and kind of kept my calf down to the floor, like trying to run flat foot up the skidder to try and protect it. And that's probably the only time I ever thought about it. And then after that, I don't know, it just never was a problem at all. I think a lot of it is very slow going because you're not doing any crazy power moves up there. So I don't know if that kind of helped. But yeah, it just surprisingly, and it's been fine since. So whether it was just paranoid niggle or what, but yeah, so yeah, going into it, I wasn't confident, but the more time went on, I just was more and more kind of confident that I could get around, and even more so, just knowing my calf was fine, it kind of put me in a better mood. And further and further I got, the more I sort of knew it was going to be possible.
The more confident you became, the more confident you became.
Yeah, for sure. And even when it got tough with conditions wise, there was only one time where I thought this is maybe too dangerous, but by the time I thought about that and thought about saying something out loud, we'd got to safety again, so carried on. Leg one was okay because I think the wind was behind us. We were full of adrenaline and buzzing, so we got to top of Skiddaw and it was really, really windy up there, and I guess that was a taste of what the rest of the round was going to be like, because then we dropped to the other side of it and it was the bog, and that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I just built everything up in my mind that everything was going to be 10 times worse. But it was okay. It was like knee deep bog, and there were bits that you could jump on to not be in the bog all the time. And then dropping down to the river, that was something people were texting me the day before saying, there's a real chance it might be too deep. Someone went in it and it was chest high and it's rained more. But we got some tips on a better place to cross it a little bit further out where it wasn't as deep. Right. And Jack jumped in and said that he was happy if we were, and we kind of formed a line and held hands and crossed there. But my other pacer, Sharon, she slipped on the rock actually, and it kind of pulled her under a bit. I turned around and she was kind of neck deep and getting dragged, so we all had to kind of hurry drag each other to the edge and made it out. And she's carried on as if nothing had happened. But I know Sharon quite well, and she's pretty hardcore. Um, and then yeah, the end of leg one as well. I say leg one had the most actual dramas just because there's quite a few like hurdles in that conditions. Like there's Horsfell Ridge, which had the crosswinds of like 50 mph, but Jack knew the side that wouldn't have be as kind of buffeted by the wind, so we went that side, but it had more sheer drops, which for me is like not good because I'm scared of heights. And yeah, there was the rock was like really wet, so there were bits I couldn't like get a purchase with my shoe, and just felt really kind of sketchy. But yeah, we got around, we got down that okay. And then yeah, leg two was when the wind really went absolutely crazy, and I'd known it on the forecast. It was like forecast to pick up at like 3 a.m. to 50 mile, and that's just constant wind. So I don't know what kind of the gusts were, you know,
Yeah.
and higher. But there was a section, I don't know, it must have been a strange like wind gully or something, it, just before Helvellyn, and we got there and I just couldn't stand up. I was like, just like had to use everything to just stand up, let alone could barely move forward. And obviously fell runners are very slight people, so they couldn't hide behind anyone. But one of my paces, Steve, he kind of kept helping me to kind of stay upright. And then we it seemed like a long time, but that was sort of the moment I was like, God, if it's going to be like this all the way across this ridge, then it's going to take hours to get through. But it seems to like come in lulls, or depending on where you were. And there were some bits it just was just crazy windy. It was always windy, but those bits that was like, you know, just unbelievably windy that you couldn't even, you know, move forward. So yeah, leg two was tough. And I was surprised to be still ahead of the 19-hour schedule. When we got to Dunmail, we were still 15 minutes ahead. But I think that kind of how much I was bashed around on that leg really like kind of I paid for it later on, because I was still like pushing at the same pace, but probably at a way extra cost because of the elements. And then when we started leg three, it was then into a headwind for the whole 5 hours. So after the leg two of the crosswinds and all of that, and then running into a 50 mph headwind for 5 hours, yeah, I kind of faded as the round went on from
Yeah.
that, I think.
You're working a lot harder through that, something like that, aren't you?
Yeah, and it's harder to take fuel on and stuff because you're just like battling the wind. The
Yeah.
last thing you think doing gels. I mean, I did manage reasonable amount of fuel, but there definitely was room for improvement there. And but yeah, and the night just felt really long. I got to like halfway through leg three and it was still dark, and I just kept looking at my watch and like, surely the light's coming soon. And yeah, when we did get light, it was kind of a big boost. And that was when I knew I was kind of more than halfway. And yeah, although it got harder physically, like mentally, the further I got, obviously the closer I was to the finish. So, and the more I felt like, you know, I'm almost definitely going to be able to do this, like as long as nothing crazy happens. Thinking about the tailwind from, because I'd been going through wind for all the time, there was a tailwind through leg 4 and 5-ish. So I just kept thinking about that. And there was only one hail. There was like one hail shower, and it rained a couple of times. But I think that was one of the saving graces, that it wasn't really, really wet as well. And I never once was cold in the round. Like I never got cold, so I think that made a huge difference. I think that was like, you know, kit as well as the not getting wet through. Obviously, I got wet at the river crossing, but I changed my shoes, and the had like, because Steve on round two on leg two said that he couldn't warm his feet up for like 2-3 hours afterwards. But I have this like special gaiter on my shoes, and it seems to protect it from like wind chill and things. So yeah, I never had any issues like that. So yeah, and leg 1, 2, and 3, I wore this kind of I'd say it's more like a mountaineering jacket than a running jacket. And I think I was glad that I had that because it was like super protective from the wind. I changed out warmer in the daytime, but I do think that made a big difference. It's obviously a bit stiffer to run in, but because I'm not like running really fast, I didn't really notice it too much. Yeah, just wise kit choice, I think, did help get around. And
Definitely, in terms of the coat in those kind of conditions, something a bit thicker would make a big difference, wouldn't it? The typical kind of like running coats are just too thin, aren't they? Sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. And it's also the hard thing is also not wearing too many layers, because if you wear too many, then you're sweating loads and then you're wet. And then
Yeah,
when you stop, that sweat gets cold. So it's like a tricky balance. But
yeah,
yeah, I think
yeah.
we're on the right side of
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. In terms of the nutrition, because it's very, very difficult. I mean, basically, I guess a lot of people on when they're experiencing their Bob Graham round, they might have some nutrition along the way, but when you fight a wind and you side on and things like that, it's a different ball game. So, did you find that you had to stay a little bit longer on the road support points to get that nutrition in?
Yeah, so obviously, probably like everybody, I started off really well. The plan was to try and eat every 20 minutes, or like have a gel or some carb fluid every 20 minutes. And I use like Morton sachets. And then I've got like caffeine ones and normal ones. And per leg I had like one caffeine one just to keep me going. And then trying to take either one of those gels every 20 minutes, or take maybe like 250 mils of the drink mix, which has carb in it. And then I also use the supernatural fuel sachets, which is like natural ingredients, and it's kind of more of like a thicker paste. So I feel like it fills my stomach a bit more. So I try and like switch between different stuff, because um, I just find it easier if you're not just having the same thing all the time. But I also have like solid food. So on leg one, I took some stollen that was left over from Christmas. And then when I got to the road crossings, I either had pasta, like pasta pesto, mash and beans, pizza, pot noodle. What else did I have? Yeah, I think those are the main things. So yeah, I did try and eat something solid every time I got to the road. But what I do is I would change my clothes and then say to them what I wanted to take with me. And then we kind of, because it's almost always straight up a steep hill after the road section, you can kind of walk with the lunchbox. And then my wife would walk next to me and take the lunchbox once I'd finished it. So I could kind of not be stopping for too long and still making some headway. Um, and then also I was having Huel drinks. I don't know if you've heard of those. They're like, they kind of have a bit of everything in it. People use them as meal replacements, but it was just like so I could get calories in, really. Because I know sometimes you can stop being able to eat things but can still drink stuff. So that was a good way to have a bit of both.
Yeah.
And I probably had about a litre of fluid per leg, roughly. And that seemed to be about enough. I kept stopping for a wee, so that like I
Yeah,
think that,
that's good then, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah.
The obviously you're sponsored by the North Face. Can you talk us through your footwear and the support that they give you?
Yeah, so they were supporting the project, and when I sort of pitched it to them, I sort of said that I was quite keen to create a shoe that would work well for it, for kind of English winter conditions where you need a lot of traction and protection from the elements. Because I think the shoes at the minute that I use are brilliant, but they're good on European trails, which are kind of dry and hard and compact. So yeah, we did a few models of shoes that I tried and said what worked and what didn't. And then the final shoe is what I had for the bob, and it was kind of similar to what I've raced in underneath, but bigger lugs and a big gaiter, kind of water repellent gaiter, to protect mainly from wind rather than water, because water is always going to get in when you're going down through river crossings. Because but yeah, it was great. I didn't notice it. The one, you don't want to notice the shoe on your foot, so I didn't have any sort of major foot issues, and I only changed them so I could have sort of put dry socks on, and especially after the river crossing. So yeah, I think that was a big success. The North Face also had a film crew there who are making a sort of short film about it, which will be released later in the year, which would be cool.
That'll be amazing to see, because the conditions alone, it must have been so testing for them alone.
Yeah, the camera crew, obviously they were only at the road stop, so they gave the pacing crew who they already had enough to do, but they gave them a GoPro, so hopefully there's some good footage on there. But the issue is that when it's crazy, so crazy, the last thing you're thinking about is getting the GoPro out. But some of the videos I've seen, you can tell how windy it is really.
Wild.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
really wild. Lake District has its most wild, really, I think. Definitely. The importance of the support crew and the pacers during a Bob Graham round, obviously, to do a Bob Graham round and have it verified, you know, the necessary summits and have them witnessed. But how important is and how does it feel knowing that these people come on the mountains and help you out?
Oh yeah, it's really important that I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own. I know people do, but just in those sort of conditions, it wouldn't have been possible. It wouldn't have felt safe. So yeah, and a lot of it was obviously every 20 minutes I had them badgering me with gels and drinks and stuff. But a lot of it was kind of just the mental support, and mostly people didn't say anything to me because I stopped talking after leg one. Really, I just was like head down and keep going. But they kind of knew that that's the way it was going to be. But it's hard to describe. They're still kind of it's still really encouraging, especially when you're feeling a bit frightened, that they're really calm and they know what they're doing, and kind of getting through it together. So yeah, a lot of words don't need to be said, but kind of built a strong bond with kind of all of them really, without saying many words, and having never met them. And yeah, it's something I'll remember forever. So it was really special experience to have those guys help. And yeah, just like not so when I've been wrecking on my own, it takes a lot of energy to know where you're going and like doing the nav yourself. So having to not even think about that, not have to carry a pack was like absolute bliss, really. But yeah, and there's about two or three per leg, and it's quite nice when you're not talking, but you can just hear them having conversations, and you can tune in and out of it and things like that. And they'll say things that make you laugh, and yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah, very, very special, very, very special. And I think that you'll return to do it again.
No. My wife never ever again, and I think I've done it now, and I'm happy. Records are there to be broken. If someone takes it, then I'm happy with my record on that day, and that was the absolute best I could do, without a doubt. Like the last road section, for someone who's run like a 2:33 marathon, it was almost like running backwards. I was like, it was run a little bit, walk, run a little bit, walk for 4 miles. It was painful. And someone just sent me a video of the last descent. I went down it on my bum because I was just my legs are so tired from the pounding. I just sat because it was like wet grass, so I kind of like just slid all the way down that last bit. Yeah, it was a lot. But I'm like can't wait to help other people do theirs. Like it's something that I definitely want to do in future, is help other people achieve it as well, because I think kind of it's one of those things where you can give back what people are giving you. So yeah, we
Yeah.
won't be doing the whole. I'll definitely be doing bits of it again.
Or maybe just in the summer, you know. Yeah, I mean, you've kind of fought the conditions a lot there, you know. That would have taken, taken its toll as well, you know, without a shadow of a doubt. How did it feel reaching Keswick?
Oh, unbelievable. Yeah, it was yeah, really emotional. I mean, I kept getting emotional from basically Wasdale when I kept getting to the road sections. I've never run an ultra before, like like a proper ultra. Apparently, it's quite common to get that, but yeah, it was like unreal, really, getting to that door, and like the amount of relief, and just couldn't really believe that I'd actually done it. Because I'd had so much doubt, I think, going into it. It was, yeah, I couldn't believe that I was there, really. Yeah, I'm just glad to be able to sit down and not get back up.
I think it's massively inspiring what you've done, you know, without a shadow of a doubt. And I know that you've had a lot of messages from, you know, the current FKT, Bob Graham round, holders and previous ones, and it must be it's putting you in the same light really as a very, very inspirational lady. So fantastic achievement. Well done.
Thank you very much.